That's what we.
All right, everyone, welcome. My name is Sree and welcome to the iBUG, today's iBUG Cafe for October 10th, 2021. Now, before we get started, this cafe is being recorded for our podcast as well as our YouTube channel. So there's 3 rules that I kindly ask you to follow. Rule number 1, that you stay muted. Rule number 2, when we're opening up the QA at the end, if you have a question or you want to make a comment, you first go ahead and unmute, state your name, then I'll call upon you, and then you can ask your question or make your comment. And I kindly ask everyone else to stay muted till the conversation is completed. And then you do follow the same rule. Rule number 2. Rule number 3, we don't use the raise hand. And so how do we mute ourselves? If you are on an iOS device, your mute button is on the bottom left. If you are on the iPad, your mute button is in the top middle. If you're using a Mac computer, it is Shift Command A. And if you're in a Windows PC, it's Alt A. And you can also use the space bar to hold down to unmute. And when you're done speaking, you can release the space bar to go back on mute. And if you are on a landline, we use *6 to toggle between mute and unmute. And what we're going to do is quickly go around. We have a pretty big show today, so we're going to go around. We're going to ask everyone to introduce yourself. Please state your name. Tell us where you're calling from. And if this is first time to the cafe, let us know that and tell us how you found out about us. So I'll start with myself. My name is Sree. I'm from Virginia. And I'll go ahead and ask Mike.
Sorry, Sree.
All right. This is Sandhya from Houston.
This is Herbie in Houston.
Chanel in
Houston.
Welcome.
Michelle from Virginia.
Welcome, Michelle.
Kathy Long from Pennsylvania.
Welcome, Kathy.
Wilhelmina from Philadelphia.
Welcome.
Julie from Iowa.
Welcome, Julie. Welcome, Ned.
This is Ned from Kyle, Texas.
Welcome, Ned.
Roy from Fort Worth.
Welcome, Roy.
Dana from Cincinnati.
Dana, welcome. Anyone else?
Jody from New Hampshire.
Jody, and I apologize, I didn't get the last one. Who else was there?
Debbie from New York.
Welcome, Debbie.
Donna from North Carolina.
Welcome, Donna. All right. Anyone else? Okay.
Michael in Houston.
Right, Michael. All right, so let's get started because we do have a pretty long program today, but it's a very good one. This program is basically based on questions people asked during our...
from Houston.
Hey, Susan. People asked during our buzz call and our mini buzz call. And so I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, we're going to leave the questions at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation. And I'm going to be talking about the battery, and which is basically considered the heart of our device. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and have Michael start my part of the presentation. I broke it down into 3 categories. I'm going to go ahead and cover battery. And we're going to take a look at a few things. First, when do we need to replace the battery? Second, what are some things that we can do to extend the battery life? Third, we'll take a look at inside settings and see what things we can put in place that could also help run the battery more efficiently. And finally, we'll take a look at how to do a battery cycle count. The goal of today's exercise is to make sure that our battery is configured to run at its optimal peak. And according to Apple, these are the things that might indicate that your battery might need to be replaced. In the battery optimizer, if your battery is at anywhere between 82 to 80%, or if we figure out your battery cycle is at 500, and I'll go in later to explain how you can determine your battery cycle in detail, or if your device is not holding its charge, or if it's just performing poorly, these all are a good indication that your battery might need to be replaced. But the good news is the battery is the cheapest component inside your device. So contact Apple Accessibility or go to an Apple store and they can run a diagnostic. And if the battery needs to be replaced, they can do it for you. Now keep in mind, battery is a consumable item. And at some point, I will need to replace it, especially when I tend to keep my phone for some period of time. But let's see what I can do to extend the battery. And here are some of my suggestions. First is a controversial one, and that is the app switcher. Do I leave it open or do I close my apps? I tend to close my apps just in the event if an app encounters some issues which can impact the battery. Closing the app resolves that issue. Second, rebooting my phone. I typically reboot my phone at least once a week, especially with Voiceover and the hiccups that we encounter. A reboot typically fixes these issues. Third is charging my phone. I tend to charge my phone when it reaches anywhere between 30 to 40%. I try not to go all the way down to 0% and then charge my phone. 4, the widgets. I typically don't use widgets that are constantly checking with my device. This is definitely a battery hogger, so if I'm not needing it, I will remove it. Extreme heat, number 5. This is the most dangerous to your device and your battery. Heat causes damage not only to your battery but to your phone, so try and keep it away from direct sunlight. And as it deals with cold weather, even extreme cold weather, you can bring your device to a room temperature and then let it thaw down a bit, and then your battery should work as normal. 6, charging. Wireless or wired. I tend to use wired charging more than wireless charging. Wireless charging tend to create more heat, as well as I find it much more efficient to use wired charging versus wireless charging. 7, I always use MFI certified products. This is much more efficient when it comes to charging your device. And number 8, finally, I make sure that my device is always updated to the latest operating system. These things tend to keep my battery running much more efficiently, and hopefully doing this will also last longer. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to cover is the things that we can do inside settings in our iPhone settings. Now, one thing that is excluded from the setting that I didn't mention is the screen curtain. And obviously, if you're using VoiceOver, you can do a 3-finger triple tap to turn on your screen curtain, as well as if you have Zoom as well as VoiceOver, you do a quadruple, 3 taps quadruple time, and that will bring up screen curtain. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the settings things that we can do. So Mike, if you can play the second presentation. Now that we've covered some things that Apple suggested as well as some things that I recommended, now we're going to take a look at the settings on our iPhone. And we're going to cover the following in this order: Wi-Fi, notification, screen time, general, display brightness, accessibility, battery, privacy, and mail. The first thing we're going to take a look at is Wi-Fi, so I'm going to go ahead and ask Siri to open settings. Open settings.
Settings.
I'm going to go ahead and flick right until I hear Wi-Fi, and then I'm going to double tap to select it.
Wi-Fi, home sweet home 01, Wi-Fi, switch button, on.
Okay, my Wi-Fi is turned on. If you're going to be in an environment where you have no access to Wi-Fi for a long period of time, it might be good that if you turn this off, that way your device is not constantly hunting for Wi-Fi around you. Continue to flick right, and we're going to take a look at 2 things in the bottom of your Wi-Fi settings.
Ask to join networks, off button.
Ask to join network, I've turned it off, and what this does is it prevents you from receiving Wi-Fi requests when you're walking around and you have no intention of joining these networks. And if I flick right, it's going to give you an explanation.
No networks will be joined automatically. If no known networks are available, you will have to manually select a network.
And the next one, flick right.
Auto join hotspot, never button.
Also, if you plan to not ever join any unsecured hotspots, go ahead and turn this off also. And these settings inside Wi-Fi should help extend your battery life. The next thing we're going to go and take a look at in settings is notification. So I'm going to go back and swipe right until I hear notification and double tap to select it.
Notifications button. Schedule summary off button.
Now that we're inside notification, let's take a look at things that we can do to extend our battery. By default, I've landed on schedule summary. And this is new to iOS 15, where you can actually schedule when you want to receive notification instead of being bombarded constantly with notification, which can extend our battery. If I flick right,
Show previews never button.
okay, I've set mine show preview to never. And what this means is VoiceOver is not going to read the full preview of the notification, just the tidbit. I'm going to go ahead and flick right.
Screen sharing notifications off button.
Okay, I've turned this off because I don't need to be notified when I'm screen sharing. I'm going to go ahead and flick right.
Siri heading.
Okay, now we're inside Siri. I'm going to go ahead and flick right.
Announce notifications on button.
Okay, you can go in here and select which one you want to be able to communicate with Siri. And this is also where you can use it with your headphones. I've only selected a few where I want to have this correspondence with Siri. I'm going to go ahead and flick right.
Siri suggestions button.
Okay, I've completely turned this off because I don't need Siri to give me suggestions. But if this is something important to you, you can turn it off. But I definitely turned this off, and it can definitely save some battery. I'm going to go ahead and flick right.
Notification style heading.
Okay, this is where you can configure your notification style. Most of these, I've actually just turned it off, and the critical ones that I need, I've just enabled the badges, and if it's absolutely necessary, then I've enabled the full notification. And those are the things that you can do in notification to help extend your battery. The next thing we're going to take a look at screen time, and we're going to go ahead and go back into settings. I'm going to flick right till I hear screen time and double tap to select it.
Screen time button. Daily average.
I'm going to go ahead and swipe right till I hear notification.
Notifications heading.
Okay, I've landed on notification. And in the past, I was getting more than 50 notifications per day after I made some changes. Let's see what my notification looks like now. I'm going to go ahead and flick right.
Today, October 5th, 5. October 3rd, 21 notifications. October 4th, 28 notifications. October 5th, 5 notifications. Weekly average, 7 notifications per day.
So you can see I've completely reduced the amount of notification that I'm receiving, and this should definitely extend my battery in the long run. I'm going to go back into settings, and we're going to swipe right until we hear general, and then we're going to double tap to select it.
General button. About button.
I'm going to go ahead and double tap on about.
General back button.
And we're going to go ahead and swipe right.
About heading.
Okay, I'm going to swipe right one more time.
Software version 15.1.
Okay, it's telling me what version I'm running. A good way to make sure that your battery is running at its optimal peak is to make sure that you have the latest software, and that's how you can check it. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a 2-finger scrub and get back into the main screen in general. And then I'm going to go ahead and swipe right until I hear background app refresh and double tap to select it.
Background app refresh button. Background app refresh off button.
As you can tell, I have turned my background app refresh completely off. But if this is something that you want to have active, let's take a look at some things that we can do to maybe help your battery last a little bit longer. I'm going to go ahead and double tap to select it.
Selected off.
And I'm going to go ahead and swipe right, and we're going to take a look at the options that you have.
Wi-Fi.
There's an option for Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi cellular data.
And there's an option for Wi-Fi cellular. If you do plan to turn this on, I would suggest that you leave this on Wi-Fi. So I'm going to go ahead and swipe left and double tap to select it.
Wi-Fi. Selected Wi-Fi.
Now I'm going to go ahead and scrub to go back.
Background app refresh Wi-Fi button.
Now you're going to be provided with a lot of different apps that you can turn on or turn off background app refresh. For example, if I swipe right,
allow apps to 7 News DC off.
That's the local news. I've turned that off.
ACB link off.
I've turned that off.
Apple weather off.
Turn that off. As you can see, I basically turned most of these things off, and at this point, I've completely turned it off. But if this is something that you want to have active, just take a look and make sure you turn on the only apps that you really need to do a background app refresh. And hopefully that will help your battery last a little bit longer. Now I'm going to go ahead and scrub back until I get to settings. And then I'm going to go ahead and swipe right until I hear display brightness and double tap to select it.
Display brightness button. Appearance heading.
I'm going to take a line from Star Wars here where I would encourage you the only time to be on the dark side. I'm going to go ahead and flick right.
Light button.
This is the light mode.
Selected dark button.
This is the dark mode. And as you can tell, I have selected the dark mode. And the benefit of having it on the dark mode is that if you have an OLED display and when the pixel is black, that pixel is turned off. And when it's off, that means your phone is using less resource and your phone is using less battery. Having it in this mode not only will save the battery in the short run, but it will also save the battery in the long run. Now I'm going to go ahead and swipe right.
Automatic off.
I've set mine to be automatic off. That means it will always stay in the dark mode. I'm going to go ahead and flick right.
Brightness heading.
And if I swipe right again,
Screen brightness 37 adjustable.
all right, this is adjustable. You can always swipe up or swipe down to increase or decrease the brightness. Obviously, setting it in the dark mode, like I said, will definitely save your battery in the short and the long run. I'm going to go ahead and swipe right until I hear auto lock, and I'm going to go ahead and double tap to select it.
Auto lock never button. 30 seconds.
Okay, I've set mine to never because I'm doing this demo. Your options are anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes and then never. You definitely don't want to leave it in never because then your phone will never go to sleep and that will definitely impact your battery. So make sure you select anything between 30 seconds to 5 minutes. Now I'm going to go back into the main screen in settings and I'm going to go ahead and swipe right until I hear accessibility. I'm going to double tap to open it.
Accessibility.
Now I'm going to go ahead and swipe right until I hear display text size and double tap to select it.
Display text size button. Bold text off.
Now I'm going to go ahead and swipe right until I hear reduce white point, and this is an on-off toggle, and I'm going to make sure mine is turned on.
Reduce white point on.
And what this does is it reduces the white intensity on the screen, and if I swipe right again,
Reduce white point intensity 25 adjustable.
then you have a slider where you can flick up or flick down to increase or decrease the intensity. Obviously, the less intensity there is, the better your battery is going to last. I'm going to go ahead and scrub once and then flick right until I hear motion, and I'm going to double tap to select it.
Motion button. Reduce motion on.
Okay, I have reduced motion turned on. Basically, I have disabled all the animations in these settings because I cannot see the screen and it serves no purpose to me. However, turning these things off will definitely save your battery in the long run. So let's take a look what options there are available here. I'm going to go ahead and flick right twice.
Reduce prefer crossfade transitions off.
I've turned this off. I'm going to flick right twice.
Reduce autoplay message effects off.
Okay, I've turned this off. Like I said, turning these things off, if it's not relevant to you, it's definitely going to save the battery in the long run. The next two items I'm going to talk about has to do with your microphone being active all the time. I'm going to go ahead and go to the main accessibility, and then I'm going to go ahead and swipe right until I hear sound recognition.
Sound recognition off button.
Okay, mine is turned off. And if you're not using this feature, I would highly suggest turn this off. Otherwise, your microphone will be active all the time, and that would impact your battery. And also keep in mind that if you have this active, then your HEY Siri will be disabled. Now I'm going to go ahead and swipe right until I hear Siri, and I'm going to double tap to select it.
Siri button. Type to Siri off.
I'm going to swipe right until I hear always listen for HEY Siri. And keep in mind that this is a on-off toggle switch.
Always listen for Hey Siri off.
Mine is set to off. And if yours is set to on and you're not using it, it's best that you turn this off because your microphone will always be on an active status. And that can impact your battery in the long run. Now I'm going to go back into the main settings and swipe right until I hear battery. And I'm going to double tap to go into battery.
Battery button. Low power.
I'm going to swipe right until I hear maximum capacity.
Maximum capacity 95.
My current phone is at 95%. I've had this phone for about 1 year, and Apple recommends that when this reaches anywhere between 82% to 80%, you might need to change your battery. I'm going to swipe right until I hear optimized battery charging, which is an on-off toggle switch.
Optimized battery charging on.
Mine is set to on, and if yours is set to off, I would highly recommend you turn this on because this is where smart charging occurs. And what happens is when you charge, it would automatically charge up to 80% and then pause based on your previous charging habits and then charge the remaining 20%. So this way it doesn't overcharge and it also extends your battery life. As I swipe right inside battery settings, I am provided with lots of good information. But one information I want to focus on is the battery usage by app. I'm going to go ahead and flick right till we hear it.
Battery usage by app heading.
Now underneath here, you'll find apps as it relates to what percentage of battery it is using. So let's listen to a few.
Show it. Settings 29. YouTube audio 13. Voice memos 11.
So you can clearly tell based on each app what percentage of battery it takes. So inside the battery settings, I was able to figure out what my battery optimizer is, how to best charge my phone, and what apps takes what percentage of the battery. Now I have a very clear understanding of my overall performance of my battery. Now I'm going to go back into settings and I'm going to go ahead and flick right till I hear privacy, and then I'm going to go ahead and double tap to open it.
Privacy button. Location services on button.
I'm going to double tap on location services to open it. And what I have listed below are apps that have requested location services. And if there's a particular app that I don't want it to have location services, I can double tap on it and select never. Now I'm going to go ahead and scrub and get back into the main privacy settings. And in here, what I want to look for is any apps that request full access. Because the key thing is you only want to give them access while using the app if that's absolutely necessary. Otherwise, you want to give them no permission. For example, here are some apps that you don't want to give any permission to.
Research sensor usage data button. Analytics improvements button.
Analytics and improvement. This is always going to be turned off unless I need to send logs to Apple. I'm going to go ahead and flick right.
Apple advertising button.
Apple advertisement. This will always be turned off.
Record app activity button.
And this is turned off. So looking at my privacy, I made sure that apps that require it, I'm only giving them permission while using the app. Otherwise, I've turned it off. And hopefully having it set up this way, it's going to improve my battery as well as the performance of my battery. The final thing we're going to take a look at inside settings will be the mail. I'm going to go ahead and flick right until I hear mail, and I'm going to double tap to select it.
Mail button. Allow mail to access heading.
I'm going to go ahead and flick right until I hear accounts, and then I'm going to double tap to select it.
Accounts 7 button. Accounts heading.
I'm going to go ahead and flick right until I hear fetch new data.
Fetch new data push button.
Mine is set to push. I'm going to go ahead and double tap to select it.
Push on.
Currently, my mail is set to fetch new data via push. I'm going to go ahead and flick right so you can hear the definition of this.
New data will be pushed to your iPhone from the server when possible.
Okay, what this means is that every time I receive an incoming mail, it's going to automatically get pushed to my mail. I'm going to go ahead and flick left.
Push on.
I'm going to go ahead and double tap to select this.
Off.
Now that I have disabled push for fetch new data for my emails, let's take a look at what we need to do to set the frequency of me receiving emails now. What I'm going to do is flick right until I hear fetch headings.
Fetch heading.
I'm going to go ahead and flick right, and it's going to give me the definition.
The schedule below is used when push is off or for applications which do not support push. For better battery life, fetch less frequently.
Okay, it said for better battery life, fetch less frequently. And that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to go ahead and flick right.
Automatically. Dimmed.
Okay, automatically is dimmed because I've turned off push.
Manually.
All right, I have the option for manually. That means emails only will come when I open the mail app. I'm going to go ahead and flick right.
Hourly.
Okay, I can set it for hourly.
Selected every 30 minutes.
Okay, mine is set for every 30 minutes.
Every 15 minutes.
Every 15 minutes. So 30 minutes seems okay for me. So what I've done is for automatic push is now changed to every 30 minutes. I'll be receiving new mails in my mailbox. Now that I've changed my incoming mail from an automatic push to every 30 minutes, along with the many different changes that I made in other settings, my battery should perform much better, as well as it should last a lot longer. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to talk about is our battery cycle count. And I'm going to explain how you can figure this out. Now, I do want to mention, unfortunately, with VoiceOver users, there is a bug. And when you listen to this, and if this really impacts you, I would highly encourage you to contact Apple Accessibility, tell them that you want this thing fixed, or send, through apple.com/feedback to let them know that you want this particular feature enabled so that we as VoiceOver users can run the report without requiring a sighted person like what I needed to do to get this report to come out. But let's go ahead and listen to the last of my presentation. As I mentioned before, a battery is a consumable item, and at some point, I will need to replace it if I plan to keep my device for a long period of time. So what determines a battery needs to be replaced? Well, according to Apple, if you take a look at your settings, battery health, and maximum capacity, if that is anywhere near 82% to 80%, it's an indication. But there may be other things to consider also, such as your battery cycle count, which you don't see under the battery. Now you can call Apple Accessibility and they can run a diagnostic and tell you the battery cycle count. But I'm going to show you a way where you can also find it. And also, I'm going to explain how do they get that maximum capacity percentage. Well, there's a log that you can pull that gives you all of this information. And let's take a look at that. Now, before I get started, I do want to talk about some terms so that you have a clear understanding when we look at the logs. The first one is called the battery cycle count. And what this is referred to as a complete discharge and recharge is considered one cycle count. And according to Apple, if you reach 500, it's time to replace your battery. The next one is the FCC. This stands for full charge capacity. And what this means is that when you purchased your phone and you first started it up, there is a certain amount of capacity in your battery. The next one is the NCC. This is the normal charge capacity. And what this means is this is what your current battery is as of today. And finally, the spec. The spec is what Apple defines as when you purchased your phone, this is what your battery capacity is at. One more thing I wanted to mention about the battery cycle count is how it works. I'm going to give you one example. Let's say, for example, your phone is charged at 100% and then you let it go down to 60%. And then you charge it and it reaches back to 100%. That is considered one discharge. And the way it is it has to be 100, meaning we went from 100, we subtracted 60, and then we added 40. That equals 100. And that is considered one full discharge. So now we're going to take a look at how to get these logs. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and ask Siri to open privacy. Open privacy.
Settings.
Next thing I'm going to do is swipe right till I get to Analytics and Improvements. And then I'm going to double tap to select it.
Analytics Improvements button. Share iPhone Watch Analytics on.
Okay, you do have to turn on Share Analytics for the watch, which mine is on. And then I'm going to go ahead and flick right.
Analytics Data button.
I'm going to double tap on Analytics Data.
In progress. Analytics 90.
Okay, when you open this could look a little intimidating because there's lots of logs here. But these logs are listed alphabetically, and we're looking for a particular log that's called log aggregative. And you're going to have to do a lot of swiping to get to it. And once I get to it, I'm going to go ahead and double tap to select it. Now keep in mind, there are multiple log aggregative here. And what we want to do is we want to swipe right till we get to the most current one, which is the last one. And we're going to go ahead and double tap when we find it.
Log aggregated 2000 OS underscore version.
Okay, I opened it, and obviously a log file has opened up. Now here's our problem. With VoiceOver, I don't have the ability to copy or share this particular log file. So I needed the assistance of my wife, who basically is able to tap on this and have the copy or share feature. So what she did is she just basically emailed me this log file. And I'm going to use my Mac. And I'm going to go ahead and open the attachment using TextEdit and look at the logs. Now to make this a little easier, I'm just going to explain how I was able to get the battery cycle count, the FCC, and the NCC. I went to my Mac and went to the email and got to the attachment. I did a VO Shift M. And then I did an arrow down till I got to open with, and then I arrow down till I got to text edit. And then VO spacebar on text edit, and this opened my attachment on text edit. This will allow me to do a search easily. So then I did a VOF and typed in battery cycle count. It was one word, battery cycle count, and then I hit enter. And then I did option right arrow. It got to integer, and the next thing it gave me was my battery cycle count, which was at 258. So as of today, my battery cycle count is at 258. Let's take a look at the FCC. I did type in FCC on the search field, hit enter, then option right arrow till I passed the integer. The next thing it gave me the count, which was at 3,938. So my FCC is 3,938. The next thing I did is I went to the NCC. I did a search on NCC, hit entered, option right arrow, got to the integer, and then it gave me the count of 3,849. So my NCC was 3,849. Now, when I look at my device, it says that my battery capacity is at 95%. And looking into this log, the FCC says that the battery came with at 3,938. But the spec for the 12 Pro Max is only at 3,687. So this explains why when I charged my device initially, it was always staying at 100%. And that's because I actually had more capacity inside my battery than the spec for the 12 Pro Max. If you're ever wondering how does Apple calculate that maximum capacity percentage, well, what they do is they take the spec of the battery, in my case for the 12 Pro Max is 3,687, and they divide that by the NCC. In my case, it was 3,849. And when you divide both of those two, that equates to 95%, which is exactly what the amount shows up under my maximum capacity. With today's presentation, I hope you now have a better understanding how the battery works and the things that you can do to extend your battery. I know for me, I'm probably going to have to replace my battery sometime next year. And hopefully when I go to the Apple store and when it comes to my battery, they won't give me the trick, but rather the treat of a new battery. All right. So hopefully you guys got a good some understanding about the battery. The next presentation, I'm going to go ahead and invite our Twitter master, Herbie Allen. You can also catch Herbie every first and third Wednesday as he facilitates the iBUG MacBuzz. So Herbie, let's go ahead and get yourself introduced and let us know what you're going to talk about.
Okay, am I unmuted?
You are.
Okay, sorry, I apologize, having some difficulties here. So today I am going to talk about the app switcher. First of all, great presentation, Sree. And I'm sorry, did I say the app switcher? Let's try this again. I'm going to talk about the app library. This is a feature that was introduced in iOS 14, and to my knowledge really hasn't changed with iOS 15. So if you're using either one of these operating systems, you shouldn't expect any differences. The app library also works on all devices that support iOS 14 and up. So for instance, I have an older iPhone 7 that I can also access the app library on, so it is not device specific. I'm going to demo it, but I'm going to be honest about what I do think some of its limitations are. I myself will not use this a whole lot because going back to my first iPhone, I've always had my own folder structure where I have apps categorized the way I think they should be. But what the app library does is it goes based on how the apps themselves are categorized when they are submitted to the App Store or when Apple develops them or whatnot. But there are some navigation things you need to be aware of that's totally different than navigating through folders that you would have created. And so with that, let's begin the presentation. Let's take a look at the actual library itself now. I have 2 pages of apps on my phone, so that means I'm going to have to do a page swipe gesture, which is 3 fingers to the left. So if you have more pages, then that means you're going to have to keep swiping left depending on the amount of pages you have. In my case, I only have to do this about 2 times. So I am currently on the home page.
Social folder. Social folder.
As you can hear, I'm on my social folder. Okay, we're just going to now do the 3-finger swipe to the left twice.
Page 2 of 2. Bose Music in iCloud.
So I'm on page 2 of 2, and I want to swipe one more time.
Showing app library. App library. Search field.
So now we've got several different options in here. And I'm just going to start by exploring by swiping to the right.
Suggestions. Audible.
This is the suggestions based on apps that I frequently have used.
Clubhouse. Follow. Messenger. Recently added. Amazon Alexa.
Now we're going to recently added. And what's really interesting about this is not limited to apps that you've purchased from the App Store or downloaded for free or whatever. This can also include apps that you may have lurking in the cloud. Like, I have mine set that way to try to save a little bit of storage. So if you bring an app back from the cloud, it will appear here as recently added.
Smart headset. NPR. Recently added folder. 13 apps.
And now we get to our first folder. If I want to see more recently added, I would double tap this folder. We're going to come back to that, however.
Social. Messages.
So now it says social messages. What this is doing is it's essentially giving me the folder name that the apps are categorized as, and it's showing me the first thing that appears in that folder.
Facebook. Twitter. Social folder. 11 apps.
Now, something I want you to observe here. Right now, it's kind of going in order of, I think, what is most frequently used in this particular screen. So you heard messages, Facebook, and Twitter. Watch what happens when I open the folder. So you heard it say the folder name and how many more items are here. I'm going to do a 1-finger double tap.
Social. Heading.
And now it's saying social heading. Let's swipe to the right.
Clubhouse. Facebook. FaceTime. Instagram. Messages. Messenger. Phone. Telegram. Twitter. Twitterific. In WhatsApp. WhatsApp.
And what it was saying here with Twitterific.
Twitterific. In iCloud.
That's an app I have in iCloud. So if I was to install this app, it would go to my recently added. What I want you to notice here is that now the apps are showing in alphabetical order. It is neat that it'll alphabetize the apps for you without you having to do a single thing. And now, if I want to, I can go back to the left to the app that I want and open it just by doing a double tap.
Messenger.
So maybe I want my Messenger app open, so I'm going to double tap that.
Messenger. Gage Mossberger.
And what do you know, my Facebook Messenger app is opened. Now, this is where I get frustrated a little bit with the app library because it's not how I have my stuff categorized. It goes by how the apps categorize themselves, but I have 2 folders on my phone, one for social and one for social media. So a lot of these apps, Facebook, Messenger, whatnot, they go under the social media category and not the actual social category. And I reserve that for some apps that are actually not listed in here.
Messenger. Message, phone, Telegram, Twitter, WhatsApp, Twitter, telephone, messages, Instagram, FaceTime.
A classic example is two apps that I have in my actual social folder are Zoom and Team Talk, which are conferencing apps. Well, of course, you know what Zoom is. So for me, they belong in the social folder because I'm socializing with people. And these other apps are social media and not so much social. You could make a case for Messenger, I'll grant that one, but the others, I think, deserve a slightly different category. So this kind of goes into why I've never really used the app library myself that much. And I'm just going to show you something else in a little bit that I think also underscores a little bit how the app library is maybe not the most efficient way to do things, but that can depend, of course, on how your phone is organized. So I'm going to do
Social, heading.
a 4-finger single tap towards the top of the screen, and that's going to take me to the top. I also needed to mention that when I was done looking at the Messenger app, I just did my home button gesture, which of course being a 12 Pro is the 1-finger slide up. If you have an older phone, then it would be the home button. And it takes me back to the place I was in the app library. So I'm going to do a 1-finger double tap on the heading.
Social, heading. Suggestions, follow.
And now it's collapsed that folder and took me back to the main view. Now there is another way that we can actually explore the app library, and it's a little bit quicker, and this is the containers setting. And you can adjust this by going to your settings, accessibility, voiceover, rotor, and going down to containers. It may be in there by default. I'd actually taken mine out because it was something I've never really had a need for on the iPhone at least, and I don't have an iPad, but that is where you will find it. So now I'm going to use my rotor to get to containers.
Characters, Braille screen in Amazon Alexa. Containers.
There we go. So now I'm at containers, and now I can do a 1-finger swipe up or down as I please. I'm going to go up.
Suggestions, audible.
So that's the first thing it will see in the containers. If I flick down.
Recently added, Amazon Alexa. Social, messages. Other, Dice World. Music.
In Dice World, again, this is another source of irritation. Dice World is listed under games. So in my personal organization. So here it just lists it as others, and I guess I should write the developer and say, hey, for the convenience of the app library, could you please recategorize this as games? Again, that is unfortunately the downside with the app library, is you are stuck with how the app is categorized. Though you do also come across this if you are making your own organizations with apps, but you can at least rename those. As you can hear, while I'm swiping, it's not reading me every single app. It's just reading the first app that it comes across when I get to this folder in the containers.
Productivity and finance, Zoom, utilities, settings.
Okay, there's one thing we agree on. Utilities and settings belong in utilities.
Email.
And
Safari, utilities folder, 22 apps.
okay, so now I'm swiping to the right, and now I can get to my utilities folder. If I was just to swipe on the thing that it gives me in the containers, it's going to open the app instead of the folder. So
Edit mode.
oh, now I'm in edit mode, so now I've lost my containers.
Mail. Settings.
Let's see, can I get back
Productivity
to
and
my
finance. Edit mode.
nope. So now I have to
Braille's Amazon containers.
flick to the use the rotor to go back to containers, and now swipe down again.
Utilities, settings, entertainment, YouTube, health and fitness, follow.
Let's go to
Entertainment,
YouTube. So right now I'm on entertainment and YouTube. So again, it's not showing me the actual, it's just showing me the folder, but it's not the folder itself. If I double tap,
YouTube, Cast, button.
And now it's opened the YouTube app. Now, what if I want to search for an app? This is one feature that I would definitely say the app library is really good for, because the search will bring together all the results, including the apps that you have in the iCloud library. For instance, if you use Sree to try to open an app that's just stored in the cloud, it will not work. Neither will the Braille screen input method of opening apps, which Maria demonstrated to us. If you have not listened to that, go check it out if you are a Braille screen input user, because it is an awesome way of launching apps. There is a reason why I do mention Braille screen input, because there is something very important in how it interacts with the app library search method. Now, I do recognize that the majority of you probably do not use this method of typing, but for those of us who do and use the app library, if you've never done this before, you may not be aware of this quirk. It certainly caught me by surprise. And that is quite simply that Braille screen input does not work in the app library. I have tried, it just does not write anything, and instead interprets my commands as everything else from turning off speech to whatnot. You do have to use standard typing methods in here. Dictation will work. I have tested that out on a phone that I have dictation enabled on, and it does indeed work. You do your 2-finger double tap to enable the mode. You say what you want to do. You do the 2-finger double tap to stop, and it's in the edit field, no problems there. So how do we actually use the search field? Now, there are a couple of things that you do need to be aware of when making use of this tool. I'm going to use Twitter as an example here, because I have two apps whose name begins with Twitter, Twitter and Twitterific. So let's go to the top of our screen.
App library, search field.
App library,
Actions
search field,
available.
actions available. And we're going to double tap.
App library, search field.
It does not say anything like it's editing or whatnot. That can definitely throw people off, so you just have to trust that it is working.
Cap T.
I know for sure it is working because I just touched my letter T. I use the touch typing method of interacting with the keyboard, and I was able to find my capital T, no problems. If you're using standard typing, you can just touch the screen anywhere and it'll activate your keyboard, and like I said, dictation or Bluetooth keyboard, whatever, you just start your typing or dictating or whatnot. Let's continue on.
S, W, I, T.
Okay, we'll just do this, that's good enough. So now I'm going to hit my go button.
Go. Selected, Twitter, Notifications tab. Selected, Notifications tab. One new item.
So what it immediately did was open my Twitter app right when I hit go.
Messages
But
tab.
that could be a bit of a problem because, like I said, I have two Twitter apps on my phone. So how do we get around this? I'm going to go back to my app switcher.
Messages, active, Twitter, active.
But that can be a problem because, like I said, I've got multiple apps that begin with TWI. In fact, the whole name Twitter. So I'm going to do my home gesture.
App library, search field.
And we're back in the app library in the search field. I'm going to double
App
tap.
library, Cap T, W, I.
So now I've just typed in the TWI, and now I'm going to just touch a part of the screen a little bit above where the keyboard is. Oh, that's not going to work out too well. Okay.
Twitterific, Twitter.
So if I swipe to the right, that will work. And now I'm presented with two options.
Camp Twitter. Twitterific. Twitter. Twitterific.
And there you go. Now I can select the app I want. So I determined that I wanted Twitterific to open. And there you go. One other thing I need to talk about real briefly with the app library. If you lock your screen When you unlock your phone next, it's going to take you to the final page of apps. It will not bring you to the app library. The only way to do that is to do your home gesture whenever you're in an app. That will take you to the app library. Otherwise, you'll have to repeat the process of the 3-finger swipes to the left until you get to said library. Now, there's one other thing that I want to show you with the search method.
App library, search field.
And that is, how can you see all the apps that you have on your iPhone? And it is actually quite simple.
Suggestions, phone, app library, search
That
field.
won't work too well, so let's double
App
tap.
library,
And now I'm going to flick to the right.
cancel, button, section index, adjustable.
Section index. You, of course, are familiar with these. And now if I flick to the right,
Amazon, Amazon Alexa, Amazon Music, App Store, Apple Store, Assistant.
it's listing all the apps that I have available both in the phone and in the cloud as an alphabetical list. So let's go back to our section
Apps,
index.
Amazon Music, Amazon, A, heading, outdoor.
Let's see, can I,
Section index.
let's go here.
Adjust E, C, D.
Let's see what apps we have with D.
Dice World, Disney Plus, Dolby On.
Okay.
E, heading, F, heading,
And we can
outdoor.
even do heading navigation to go from letter to letter. How cool is that? And if you have headings in your rotor, that will definitely be something you can make use of. So that's how you can see all your apps in alphabetical order. Now, maybe you're wondering, can we use Siri to open the app library? Let's find out. Open app library.
I don't see an app called Library. You'll need to get that from the App Store first.
So there you go. You cannot use Siri to unlock that feature of the phone. So then how do we actually do this? I've gotten out of everything. I've locked my screen actually here. And so we're going to unlock. Now I want to go down to edit mode. So I'm just going to be pointing to any app here.
Edit mode. Start
Swipe
editing.
down,
Let's view.
and now
Is
we're
it-
in edit mode, and this is how you can move apps around, by the way, if you want to do your own folder structures. Let's go to the bottom of the page.
Page 2 of 3. Adjustable.
Page 2 of 3. Okay, I don't really need this visible, but I don't want to get rid of all the apps, and I don't feel like moving them around either. So I'm going to do a 1-finger double tap.
Home screen page hiding. Page 2. Visible. Page 1. Visible. Done. But page 2. Visible. Jump to page 2. Drag page.
So
activate.
all we have to do now is
Default.
activate
Page 2.
this.
Hidden.
And page 2 is hidden. Now, the question, of course, is, can I get a page back? And the answer is yes. Now, one mistake I made that I'm pretty sure you guys would not is, at first I thought I could do this from within a folder that I'd already created just by going to edit mode with an app. No, it doesn't quite work like that. You have to be on an actual main page. So if you have multiple pages, that doesn't matter, but you just have to be on an actual page outside of folders or whatnot. I am going to,
Sports folder.
now back on the main screen here.
Music folder. 4 apps.
So it doesn't matter what folder I'm on here. I'm just going to swipe down once again.
Edit mode. Started editing.
Double tap the edit mode. Now we're going to go to the bottom of the screen.
Page 1 of 2. Adjustable.
And I'm going to do my 1-finger double tap again.
Home screen page hiding.
Home screen page hiding. And now I can go to the right.
Adjustable. Night
Oh,
sky.
that won't work.
Page 1. Visible.
Page 1 is visible.
Page 2. Hidden.
I quite kind of went too
Actions
far to the
available.
left, but that's okay. Let's just swipe back to the right. And now I can bring my page 2 back.
Page 2. Visible. Page done. Button.
And I can hit the done button.
Social folder. Is that
And voila! Now I've got my page 2 back.
finished editing?
So let's get out of here. If I swipe to the left,
Page 2 of 2. Bose Music in iCloud.
there you go. My page 2 is back. The final thing that I'm going to talk about in this demonstration is how you can do the same process with an individual app rather than a page of them. I'm going to just see what I have here on my page 2.
Bose Music.
I still might need that
Let's
one.
view in iCloud.
Let's view. Okay, here's one that I might still need, but I don't often think about, so why don't I just get it off the home screen? I'm going to swipe down to edit.
Edit mode. Started editing.
I definitely am on the app that I want to be pointed to. But if I wasn't, I could swipe left or right till I got to where I wanted. And by default, it's going to take me to activate. This won't open the app, but instead give us some different options here in edit mode. Now I'm going to do my one finger double tap.
Alert. Remove Let's View.
And now I've got some options here. Let's flick to the right.
Removing from home screen will keep the app in your app library. Delete app button.
I can delete app. That'll make it completely gone.
Remove from home screen button.
Or remove from home screen.
Cancel button.
And then there's a cancel button.
Cancel. Remove from home. Add widget button.
And we're going to remove it from the home screen.
Done button.
Now I'm going to hit my done button.
Fuzzy Logic 5G.
Whoa.
Voice clock. Page 2 of 2. Adjustable.
Okay.
Bose Music NVDA Rem Peacock. In iCloud.
So there you go. Now it's gone. But if I go to my app library.
Showing app library. App library. Search field. App library. Cap L. E. T.
I'm going to just write in the word let.
Let's View.
And voila. Let's View is still there. So I can activate it. And I'd still see it if I did the section index to navigate the series of apps. And now you are probably wondering, can I get it back onto my home screen if I want? This is a little bit interesting, but the answer is yes.
App library. Search field.
So
App
I'm going to
library.
search for
Search
Let's View
field.
one more
Cap L.
time because
E. T. Let's View.
what I'm going to do now is use my rotor.
Actions. Activate.
And I just did the left movement and, rotating left. And now I'm on actions.
Drag Let's View.
And now I can drag.
Add widget. Dot boat and peacock. Is at NVDA
And
remote.
now I'm on
Is
my
editing.
page
Data.
2.
Stop edit. Add to drag session. Drop Let's View before NVDA remote. Drop complete.
And now, if I get out of
Finished
the app
editing.
library,
Let's View. In iCloud.
voila, my Let's View is back on the home screen. So you can basically undo that if you so desire. And that should give you an idea of how the app switcher works. And so basically, just, the question, of course, who is it for? And I would say that the app library, well, I don't know why I keep saying app switcher, because I'm old habits. The app library is really designed, I think, for people who have never bothered to organize their apps. I think it's great if you have pages and pages and pages of apps and you don't have the time or the willpower to get them organized. Otherwise, I was talking about the organization of them in terms of how they're categorized. But the other thing, what is also really interesting is, like, for me, some of my folders are actually organized in terms of how frequently I use the apps. So, for instance, phone is actually at the top of my social folder and not in an alphabetical order. So I have like phone, FaceTime, messages, mail, because that's the frequency of the apps, how I use them. And so with my own organization, I have that freedom and flexibility. Whereas the app library, again, you're stuck with not only how they organize them, but how they feel your apps should be displayed. So I think the app library is better suited for people who are not well organized. And if you are trying to find an app that you just don't know where you placed it and it's in the cloud, so you can't open it with your normal methods, I would say the search feature in the app library is also really wonderful for that as well. Though I think you can still find cloud-based apps with a spotlight search. So anyway, that is the app library, and I will hand things back to Sree.
All right.
Sorry, Sree. I think I muted you there. I think we got time here to make a quick announcement, or not announcement, but to acknowledge the new people that have joined us since the beginning of the meeting.
All right, anyone new? State your name.
It's Kathy. I was
Hey,
late.
Kathy. That's okay. Welcome.
Mark in Montreal.
Hey, Mark. Welcome.
Freddie from Galveston County.
Welcome, Freddie.
Terry from Arlington Heights, Illinois.
Hey, Terry. Welcome.
Mary Linda from Georgia.
Welcome, Mary.
Terry from Houston.
Very welcome. All right. Anyone else new that didn't have a chance to announce yourself? Going once, twice.
Carol Oxalate, Houston.
Philadelphia.
Hey, Carol. Welcome. I'm sorry. Who's the other one?
Kim, Philadelphia chapter. Greater Philadelphia chapter.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. I did want to make another announcement. The powers to be at iBUG has kindly said that we could extend to about 15 minutes with the Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and start the introduction of the next presentation. And this is something that if you attend our iBUG Monday in our Clubhouse mini buzz on Tuesday, you'll know that we get this question all the time about widgets. And so we're going to do a real deep dive look at widgets. I've got the privilege of Mary Christic, who's a financial analyst who lives in New York with her guide dog, Lacey, is going to do a very good presentation on this. She's been part of our iBUG community since 2017, so she's got a wealth of knowledge. And Michael, if you could go ahead and start her presentation, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sree. We're going to be talking about widgets, how to add them and rearrange them, delete them, stack them, how to edit them when that's available, and I'll show you a few of them. But first, what are widgets? So widgets allow you to quickly see or interact with bits of information from apps without having to open those apps and search for the information. So they allow you to do things quickly, see things at a glance, have some quick interactions. So for instance, there are widgets to show you your battery status of your devices, to show you upcoming calendar appointments, to show you the weather, to allow you to interact with contacts that you want to set, like a few favorite ones that you can quickly go into their contact page to call them or see their location if you have that sharing set up. You can use widgets to open recently read books, see email messages, have a quick preview of a certain mail account. Third-party apps also have widgets, and so really there are a lot of possibilities, and widgets have been around for quite a while. They've previously been only available on the Today screen of your phone's home screen on the iPhone. So the screen when you are on page 2 and you do a 3-finger swipe to the right and you get to page 1. And that Today view has lots of widgets. It has had them for a few years, and they are certainly still there and still available there. I prefer not to really have them there because I found that recently Voiceover Focus kind of jumps around a little bit on that page, and now with the greater flexibility, I just want them where I can see them and not, I don't want to have to press a lot of, do a lot of gestures and issue a lot of key commands to get to them, because that kind of defeats the purpose. Then I might as well open the full app. And then the way to arrange the widgets on the Today view has changed to be more in line with these recent developments. And so recently, meaning as of iOS 14, the widgets have been greatly expanded. You can now have them on your regular home screen pages alongside your apps or instead of apps on a page. And there are now different sizes of widgets available as well. Generally, they are a small, which takes up the amount of space of 4 app icons, a medium, which takes up 2 rows on your home screen, and a large, which takes up 4 rows. Now, these are generalizations depending on the widgets. Some of them, depending on the app developer, some only have a couple of sizes, maybe like a small and a medium. Some will have more choices available because they have different permutations of widgets. Like, for instance, with calendar, you might have a couple of sizes of widgets to see next events, but then you might have another type of widget that shows you like a month view of how many events you have coming up in a month. Or there's a Find My widget, which I'll talk about later on, but it has a couple of permutations, meaning if you want to, a smaller and a larger size for finding people, and then you have the same kind of thing, but a widget that instead shows items. So it really does depend on the widget, on the app developer, and what kind of widgets they have enabled. Now, a few notes on my settings for VoiceOver before I go into a bit of a demonstration. I have my hints turned off. My VoiceOver sounds are off as well, and I'm using the flat navigation style, which is the traditional navigation that has always been there prior to basically as long as the iPhone's been accessible. So not the new group style option that is available in iOS 15. So I'm gonna show you a few widgets, and in the process of doing that, I'll show you how to work with them. This by no means is any kind of a complete list of widgets. I'm just choosing to show a few of them that I think, either that I find useful or that I think, you might find useful as well. So I definitely would encourage you to explore and play around with them. Another little caveat, sometimes, so VoiceOver can tend to be very... sometimes in this whole process, like, VoiceOver will say things that are not on the screen. Like, it will talk about a widget perhaps that isn't actually there, or sometimes in the course of editing it will stop reading out certain elements, and when that happens, I've found even that turning VoiceOver off and back on does not help, and I've had to restart the phone. So if anything like that happens, I will let you know so that you kind of have a sense of the fact that it has happened, and I will, by the magic of recording, I will pause the recording if need be, and restart my phone. But hopefully that will not happen. So we are on my home screen page, and I have no widgets at the moment. I just have apps. So for instance,
Calendar, Saturday, Mail, Books for App Store, Book at Home, News folder, Health,
and so on. So no widgets. There are more things on this page, but no widgets. So I'm going to just move to the top here where
Mail,
my
5 unread emails,
where my Mail app is, because this is where I want to start adding widgets. And I'm going to go into edit mode so as to add them. So there are a couple of ways to do this. I'm going to use the actions possibility of the rotor, and I'm just going to flick down with one finger.
Edit mode.
And double tap.
Started editing.
Okay, and we end up
Calendar.
We think
Mail.
That nothing different has happened. It says that it's editing.
Add widget.
But if we move to the top here on the across the top of the screen, we have the Add Widget button, and so this is where we begin. Now VoiceOver is not saying anything, so I have to actually touch the screen.
Search widgets.
Okay.
Search field.
And we start here with a search field. So this allows you to quickly find the widgets you're looking for. I'm going to explore the screen a little bit so that you can see, because before just the whole list of widgets that you can add, iOS tries to give you some kind of a dynamic widget suggestions as based on like your habits of using the phone, like what kinds of stuff you might want. And so this is going to be very personalized and dynamic for each person, but just to kind of give you a sense of the AI that's at work, let's check out some of these suggestions here.
Music, Smart Stack, Widget, Stack, Medium, Suggested button.
Okay, and so what this is, it's mentioning a smart stack. So you can stack widgets on top of each other, which we will do. This is a smart stack. This means that AI, Siri, and well, not Siri, there's another Siri suggestions. The different machine learning and such on your phone is going to try and figure out what you use the most, and then it's going to create a stack of a few widgets that you might want to use more frequently, and they're going to be stacked on top of each other so that they only take up one space on your home screen. I believe this smart stack ends up having like 6 or 7 different widgets. And by stack, just to emphasize, all the widgets in the stack have to be the same size. You literally cannot, you just won't even see the option if you're trying to stack widgets of different sizes. So all of these widgets in this smart stack that I'm being offered here are medium sized widgets. And I don't know what else is in it right now. I could actually doesn't even, because it just rotates out. So if I pressed this button, then I would have the previews of be able to choose different sizes for the smart stack and add it if I wanted to. So I'll show adding in a second, but we'll just
Music, listening activity, widget, small, suggested button.
So see the similar kind of a thing, but this is only one widget. So I just wanted to point that out. There's no mention of a stack, and here it's suggesting a small widget. So I won't go through all of these. You can explore what shows up for you at your leisure. But I'm going to now show adding a widget. So I'm going to move down here. I could do a search, but I'm going to quickly move down, and I'm using a Braille display.
Button.
I'm using a Braille display, so that's why this is moving so quickly. So we're at the batteries button now, and this is the widget I want to add. This allows you to see the battery status of not only your phone, but when you have things plugged or connected like Bluetooth headphones or speakers. It just really depends on the device. It could be a keyboard, it could be various things. So I find this a quick way to check like the battery status, say, of like my AirPods and the case when it's plugged in. So we're gonna double tap on this batteries button.
Sheet grabber.
The infamous sheet grabber. This is a bit of a bug in iOS 15 that if you try and get out of this with a Braille display,
sheet grabber.
See, I'm just
button.
issuing different commands and it's not doing anything. You have to touch the screen.
Status.
Okay, so I don't actually know where it landed me. I just touched somewhere in the screen to get out of the sheet grabber. So let me try and move to the top here. If I move to the top itself, it's going to put me in the sheet grabber. So I'm just going to flick to the left a couple of times. Okay,
Batteries.
There we go. All right, so I was near the top. So let me just show you the screen. So this one's saying batteries.
Status.
This is status. This is
view the status of your iPhone and connected Bluetooth accessories.
Well, there we go. See, I shouldn't have even described it. iOS did it much more elegantly than I did.
Widget preview. Small. iPhone. 96% charged.
So that nicely told us that we're now in a preview that shows what the widget is going to look like, and this is showing a small widget preview. This is nice and accessible. Certain times VoiceOver won't put you into this preview and you have to like try and touch the screen a bit to get the focus, and certain widgets don't have nice previews like this where you can actually see the text, and it's important here to take note of the size that you are adding, because once you add a widget you can't really tell what size you've added. I mean, you can like feel this, touch and explore by touch and kind of figure out the size, but like you can't tell, VoiceOver won't, tell you on your home screen that this is a small widget or a medium. You'll just see the text. So, we're on small, so if I want to see, it's not really going to make too much of a difference here. I will show you with another widget the size differential, because I only, I don't have any Bluetooth devices connected at this time. But we're going to, if we flick to the right again,
close.
This
button.
is a close button. If I don't want to add it and just want to go back to the list of widgets, flicking to the right.
Page 1 of 3.
Okay.
Adjustable.
And this is how you adjust the size of the widget that you want to add. So if I do a flick,
Page 2 of 3.
I had a moment there. A flick up. We're going to, you see now page 2 of 3. And if I flick to the left a couple of times.
Close. Widget preview. Medium. iPhone.
And see,
96% off.
it is telling us now that the preview has changed to medium. Again, it's not going to make too much of a difference in this preview. I'm just going to pick the small
Page 2
one.
of 3.
So we're going to...
Page 1 of 3.
I could have flicked up to the right to... I could have flicked up again to page 3. And I just flicked... So I flicked to the right a couple of times to get back to this page adjuster. And then I flicked down to get back to page 1 instead of up to get to page 3. So now I'm on page 1 and I'm going to flick to the right.
Add widget.
And there's an add
button.
widget button. All right. Very good. Widget.
Add widget.
All right.
Button.
Now the widget has been added. I think we're going to double check.
Done.
So we're still in edit mode. I'm flicking to the right. Done.
Batteries.
There it
Is
is.
editing. Widget.
The batteries is a
Actions
widget.
available.
And it's editing. Very good. So it is here. We're going to add
widget.
a couple more.
Button.
So then I can show
Sheet
rearranging
grabber.
them. Here we go
Button.
with the sheet grabber. All right, we're going to
Music.
move
Web.
into
Mail.
the
Weather.
weather widget, and I can show you this one does make a difference in terms of the size. So let's hear the description.
Weather forecast. Widget. Small. Suggested.
Oh, actually,
Button.
yeah. So this is actually suggested. I could move down.
Weather. Button.
Here's the weather button just out of this whole suggested area in my list of widgets. So we're going to double tap here.
Sheet grabber.
Sheet grabber.
Button.
We're going to touch the screen.
Weather forecast.
Here we go.
Weather.
Here are the descriptions of the
Weather
widget.
forecast.
Flicking to the right, weather forecast. Flicking to the right again.
See the current weather conditions and forecast for a location.
Okay. Flick to the right.
Close.
Again,
Button.
close.
Page 1 of 3.
And this is what
Adjustable.
I'm mentioning. So as I'm flicking, Voiceover did not give me the preview. So I'm going to attempt to touch the screen kind of in the center
Dismiss
here.
pop-up.
Dismiss pop-up.
Dismiss widget preview.
Okay.
Small.
Widget preview. So I kind of touched in like the bottom half of the screen closer to the center. And I'm going to try and flick because I'm not... See, this happens. Sometimes the preview nicely...
Dismiss pop widget.
And see, now I'm not...
See page 1 of widget. Dismiss pop-up.
So I'm not able to this time. It can be fickle. It would nicely show me like the small widget is going to show me for a few hours. A larger widget might actually give me a forecast. For a few days worth. So it does take advantage of the fact that larger ones can fit more information, but Voiceover is choosing not to show me that at the moment. So you will have to just take my word for it and see. Now I can't even get out of it without...
Page 1 of 3.
Okay, I'm touching near the bottom to get to this page adjuster, and we're just going to add the small widget. We're going to add it again. We're going to add that one.
Widget.
And so we're going to repeat this process. Let's add a few more quickly so I can...
Sheet grabber.
Let me see...
Sheet grabber. Castro.
Let me see the calendar widget, if I'm able...
Cast calendar button.
Let me see if I'm able to get an accessible preview that changes. That Voiceover can show me.
Grabber.
All right. I'm going to just attempt to... So this screen now kind of looks familiar. I'm going to see if I can touch sort of the bottom center of the screen.
Widget preview. Small.
Oh, it's just not.
Widget preview. Dismiss pop-up.
Let me try and turn Voiceover off and back on.
Voiceover off.
To see, we did get one accessible preview with the battery, and these
Voiceover
should
on.
give.
Widget preview. Small. Page 1 of 5. Close. Keep track of your upcoming events and meetings.
Okay, so it's not, and I'm not going to restart the phone because you will see what the widgets actually look like in terms of their actual information once I show them to you on the screen.
Close.
So we're just gonna add, but let me show you here. So we had page 1 of 3, right? And I meant in the prior widgets, and I mentioned that some widgets have more permutations. So this is one of them. So I'm just moving on the screen. So if I move to the page adjuster,
page 1 of 5.
We see page 1 of 5. So if I flick up.
Page 2 of 5.
Now I'm going to move to the top of the screen.
Sheet grabber.
Out of the sheet
Keep
grabber.
Track of your upcoming events and meetings.
Okay, so same description.
Up next.
And this is up next. I flicked to the left so you could hear that.
Close. Page 2 of 5.
Now let me go, for instance, to
Page 3 of 5.
So these are different.
Page 3 of 5.
These are different sizes.
Sheet grabber. Up next. Close.
But for instance,
page 3
4
page
of 5.
4 of 5. Get a month.
So here we go. This is a different permutation of the widget. It's month, and if I flick to the right,
Get an overview of everything happening in the current month.
okay,
Close
and flicking to the
button.
right a
Page
couple
4,
of times,
Page 5 of 5.
page 5 of 5,
See a list.
and a list.
See a compact view of your upcoming events.
So see, these are different permutations of this widget. So I'm going to go back
Page
and
fi-
add,
page 2 of 5.
and I'm
Add widget
flicking to the
button.
right from the page adjuster to the add button, and I'm going to add,
Page 2,
I'm
page
actually
1
gonna
of 5.
add
Add widget.
the small widget. So I just moved,
Add widget.
I flicked left to the page adjuster, and I selected page 1, flicked down, and then flicked to the right in the add button. Now I actually realized by accident, but it works well for this demo, that I actually wanted to add the medium weather widget. So I'm actually going to show you how to delete a widget, and then we're going to add, because remember we added the small weather widget, and I'm going to add the medium one quickly, and then I can show you how to arrange these widgets. So
Done.
I'm flicking to the
Button.
right.
Finished editing.
Oh, we got out of editing mode.
Edit
We're
mode.
flicking down to activate edit mode and double tapping.
Started
okay,
editing.
we're back.
Add widget. Done. Calendar. Is editing. Weather.
Okay, here's,
Is editing.
I'm just flicking to the
Widget.
right. Now we want to remove the weather
Action-
widget.
Stop editing
So
apps.
actions are available. We're flicking down
Delete.
a couple of times until delete, double tap.
Alert. Remove weather widget.
So this is like editing, deleting any other app. And the description says if we flick to the right.
Removing this widget will not delete any apps or data.
Yeah, because it's just removing the widget. We're going to flick to the right.
Cancel.
And again.
Button. Remove.
And double
Button.
tap. And the widget
Add
is
widget.
gone. All
Button.
right, so I'm going to quickly add now the medium weather widget.
I heard.
And we're
weather.
going to do this very quickly. I'm
Add
going to move
with
to the
page,
bottom.
Page 2 of 3.
And actually,
Page 2 of 3.
moving to the bottom did get me out of the sheet grabber. So, with my braille display. So,
Add widget. Button.
okay, and we're going to add. All right.
Add widget.
Now,
Button.
I'm going to, because the previews are not playing nice at the moment, I will just add a couple of these widgets to show you how they work
Sheet
here.
grabber.
So let me just get out of this. We're gonna add the contacts
Draw
widget,
clock. Contacts. Button.
and we'll
Sheet
add
grabber. Button.
this. We'll
Dismiss add page 1 of 3.
Again, I've seen accessible previews of these. If you don't, you just kind of try with the different sizes and see if you like what they do. I'm going to add the medium here because the small one only shows one contact, and I'm going to add the medium so we can see 4 of
Page
them.
2 of 3. Add widget.
Okay, and I'm going
Add
to, then we're going to add a couple of more widgets so we can create a stack. So we're going to... we're going to add the Audible and Kindle
Add the
widgets.
contact web calendar. Done. Add widget.
Sorry, I got my focus
Sheet
got a
grab-
bit.
Sheet grabber.
All right, and I'm going to add,
Audible.
we're going to add Audible. We'll add,
Sheet grabber. Add
the-
widget. Button.
we'll add these.
Page 1 of 3.
So Audible has small, medium, and large. We're going to add the medium.
Page 2 of 3. Add widget.
And you will see the Kindle app. So these
Add
are third
widget.
parties. The Kindle one only
music.
has 2 permutations. A medium
Mail,
and a
Kindle.
large. And
Sheet
so
grabber.
we're gonna
Sheet
add,
grabber. Widget.
we're going to add the
Page 1 of
medium
2.
one. See, this one just says
Adjustable.
page 1 of 2.
Add widget.
All right.
Button.
So I think
Add
I could
widget.
show you more and add more, but for the interest of time, I'm going to now show you how to
Done.
arrange
Button.
these widgets.
Kindle.
So we have
Is editing.
Kindle. You
widget.
see these.
Audible. Contacts. Page 1 of 3.
So now you see they're just
Adjustable.
being added one before the other in the order that I put them, the order that I'm adding them. So, and you see now page 1 has no more apps on it because the widgets are taking up all the space on this home screen page. Now if I go to page 2 of
Add
home
widget
screen.
done. Weather. Calendar. Is editing. Weather.
Whoops, that's a
Is
widget.
edit. Calendar.
Widget.
Is editing. Mail.
And now
Calendar.
we have
Books folder.
And now we
Is
have my
editing.
apps. So
Block. Safari.
all our widgets
Page
are
two,
here.
page
I'm going to
one,
go to
add
page
widget.
1 and I'm going to show you how to stack stack. The rearranging of widgets works similar to how you do it with apps. You can use the actions rotor or drag. I'm going to use, or physically drag. I'm going to use the actions rotor.
Kindle is editing.
So in
Widget.
order to stack
Actions available.
if I want to stack the Kindle and Audible widgets on top of each other, I'm going to initiate a drag.
Finish
so
editing.
I'm going to
Edit mode.
I'm going
Start
back to
editing.
editing
Add
mode.
widget.
I'm going
Done.
to
Kindle
flick
is
down.
edit. Stop, delete, drag Kindle.
Drag.
Audible.
All right.
Is editing.
Now we're on Audible. I'm
Widget.
just going to flick down.
Stop, edit, drop, cancel, drag, activate, stop editing.
Oh my,
apps.
I picked actually the wrong size, it looks like, of this app to edit.
Drop, cancel, drag.
I'm going to edit.
Drop ready.
I'm going to pause the recording and put in the small version of the Audible widget so that the two widgets are the same size, and then I can show you the stack option that shows up in the actions rotor to stack them. All right, so now I have added the small Kindle and Audible widgets both, so now we can make a stack. And so I've initiated the drag on the Kindle widget, and we're going to now flick down a few times in order to create the stack. So you'll see.
Activate, default, stop editing apps, drop Kindle before Audible, drop Kindle after Audible.
This is just like.
Drop create new stack with Audible and Kindle.
All right.
Drop ready.
And we're gonna double
Drop
tap.
complete.
So,
Widget.
this is literally like moving any other apps. So instead of like a folder, this is giving you an option to create a stack. And so now it did tell us. It told us Kindle widget stack is editing, and so that's how you stack. Now, I wanted to just point out. So in order to rearrange widgets, again, you would select drag, and then you'd select drop before or after. But do expect that if you are dragging. If you're rearranging, widgets of different sizes.
Finished editing.
Voiceover, iOS will actually rearrange them in a way that they're able to fit visually. So sometimes sometimes widgets might not end up in the order that you were expecting. Like say you had like a small widget, and then you wanted to have this medium widget beneath it, but you had some other apps on your home screen. Like iOS might put those other small app icons on the same row as the small widget, and then might move the medium widget below so that it fits. So it might not be right after your widget. That's just an example. But basically, you want to kind of after you've done some sort of a drag and drop, you want to explore the screen and flick around and see how the arrangement has ended up visually. So. We're going to, now that I have shown the adding them and deleting them, indirectly rearranging by way of, how you would go about doing that. You would just double tap on the, drag options. And then I've shown stacking them. So let's now actually look at a couple of widgets and see what we can do with them. So as indicated there, we have finished editing. We're no longer in editing mode, and we are now in the Kindle widget.
Kindle widget.
And if I flick.
Kindle is editing. Kindle is editing. Weather. Kindle. Night sky.
Oh my.
Night sky.
So this is
night
voiceover.
Sky.
As you can tell, I'm
Weather.
touching.
Weather.
And it's not actually
night sky.
It's not actually giving me any text. So this is what I was saying with the voiceover, sometimes being a bit fickle and not announcing things correctly. So I'm going to pause the recording again, and I'm going to restart my phone, and we'll have much better behaved voiceover after this. All right, I restarted my phone, and I'm leaving this in because I want you to see how this happens if it happens to you, so you can actually see that how this is being troubleshot, what have you. So phone's been restarted, much better behaved widgets now. And these widgets, so remember again, based on the size, you have to flick multiple times usually to get through all of the content in a widget. So just to be aware that if you have widgets, each flick is not going to necessarily be taking you anymore from app to app. You're going to be flicking through a widget and then moving to an app. So let's begin at the top of the screen now. Remember, things got added one before the other, order in the order that we added them. So if you remember, we added that Audible and Kindle stack. So we're going to just move to the top of the screen here.
World War C. Sanjay.
Okay, I'm going to stop the speech. This is a most recent Audible book that I was reading. And
Calendar.
if I
widget. Saturday.
And this is the calendar widget. So if I moved back up, it'll tell me.
Audible. Widget. Stack. World War C.
Okay, great. And then that's the book title. The larger Audible widget is going to have more books there that you can, if I clicked on this, if I double tapped, I would just be taken to that book. But it said here that was a stack. So if I wanted to jump to the Kindle widget in the stack, I am going to just use our actions rotor. And so I'm going to double rotor item, and so I'm going to flick down.
Next widget.
And what do you know? And double tap.
Widget 2 of 2.
And of course it doesn't tell us, but I'm going to flick to the right here.
Adult. Beagle. Sign.
Oh my. This is doing image recognition. I'm going to move to the top here.
Image. Kindle logo widget.
Okay, and flick to the right, and then we get Kindle.
Actions available.
A
white logo on the blue
logo widget. We're going to flick to the right again.
Pause for thought. Seeing the world through the eyes of Strachan.
Flick right again.
Calendar.
And we're in the calendar
Kindle
widget. So you see, this Kindle widget took a few flicks to get through all that content, whereas Audible showed it all to me in one line. So again, the structure and such is just going to vary by widget. And again, a larger one could have been there to show me more stuff. If I'm going to just show you to prove it to you. If I just flick to the left, and where we have pause for thought, if I double tap here.
Pause for thought. Reading on.
And we are now in the Kindle app, and
reading on.
And of
button.
course, it's not. I'm going to touch.
A little about myself and
there we go. We're in the book, and the reading is completely separate. That's a reading focus that I have set up that turned on. But as you can see, it did literally let me jump into this app with the most recently read book that I was reading opening up. So let's go back to the home screen.
Kindle. Calendar.
And see, now
widget.
we're back in the widget, but we want to be in the Kindle widget, so we're going to flick left.
Kindle widget.
Okay, and if we want to go back to the Audible one.
Next widget.
So flick down.
Previous widget.
Flick down again, previous widget. So these allow me to go between them. So and it wraps around. So if I just flick back up to next widget.
Next widget. Widget 1 of 2.
There, and we're back. It doesn't tell me, but if I move to the top.
World War C.
There it is. So we're back in the Audible widget. Now, to edit this stack, and this is how you edit single widgets as well, we're going to invoke the context menu. So this is the double tap and hold, or the triple tap with one finger to invoke that.
Edit Audible button.
And we have edit Audible, meaning to edit this widget, and that's where we would go to do that if we wanted to.
Edit stack
to
button.
Move to the right, flick to the right, and there we have edit stack. And we also have here
edit home screen, but remove stack button. Dismiss context menu.
And that's our context menu.
Button.
So if we flick to the left a few times with one finger back to
edit stack.
Edit stack.
Button.
Let me show you what this looks like. Double tap.
Add widget. Button.
Okay, we're
done.
Flicking to the
button.
right.
Page 1 of 2. Adjustable.
And this is
doc. Forward. Page 1 of 2. Adjustable.
Allowing me. This is page 1 of 2. So each page is one of the widgets in the stack.
Audible is editing.
Okay, I just touched.
Widget.
I touched near the center of the screen to make it announce the widget. Because it just flicked.
Doc.
Now we're gonna.
Music. Audible. Is editing.
Okay, so if you do want to flick, it's letting me flick past the dock and then go to this announcement of the widgets. So that is good. And we have
page 1 of 2. Kindle is editing.
And I'm just flicking
widget
to the right.
Smart rotate on
Okay, and I just wanted to point out the smart rotate. What that will do, and this is more of a, if you have multiple widgets in a stack, it will try to figure out which ones, again, using machine learning to figure out what you're using most frequently, and it will rearrange your stack so that the ones that you're using most frequently are on top. And so that is what the smart rotate is option is, and so it's on right now, and I could double tap and toggle it off. And to edit widgets in a stack, again, so if I...
Widget suggestions on button.
Again, this is
widget
if I
Kindle
so that was flicking to the right. To get to widget suggestions one more time, we're going to flick to the left a couple of times. We get back to Kindle, and that's a widget in the stack. And again, I can actions
stop editing apps, delete today,
and
app stop at delete,
and to delete it from the stack. So again, similar to editing apps. So we're going to stop editing.
Stop editing.
I just
apps.
flicked to the down with one finger a few times until stop editing, and then I double tapped.
Add widget.
And it's actually not taking me out. I have a feeling VoiceOver is showing me things that are not visible on the screen. So we're going to move to the top to the add widget, and we're going to flick to the right with one finger to done and double tap to get out of this.
Audible.
Okay, now let me show you just in terms of editing a widget itself. This works similarly. You're going to choose to edit the widget, and then there are going to be buttons for doing something, and you're going to tap, you're going to double tap on the button, and that's going to allow you to change whatever this corresponds to. So let's go into the weather app, for instance, weather widget, excuse me, and I'm going to touch the screen here because...
Audible. Hourly weather.
There we go.
Widget. Albany. 66 degrees. Cloudy. High of 68 degrees. Low of 54 degrees.
Okay, so that's the beginning of this widget. And if I flick to the right, or of course you can explore by touch as well, but I want to show you if I flick to the right, you can see the forecast now here for several hours on this medium-sized widget.
Hourly forecast. 3 p.m. Cloudy, 66 degrees Fahrenheit. 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 6, 7, 6, 22, sunset, 7 p.m., page 1 of 2.
Okay,
hourly.
So, and that's the end of that widget. So that's why it took me to the page adjuster, because that's the end of the stuff on that home screen. So I just flicked, it gave me the hours, it gave me the forecast and the high-low for each hour. I just flicked quickly to the right to show you. So you can see there, I'm seeing like 6 hours worth of forecast there without, just literally on my home screen, without needing to open the weather app. So if I want to edit this, so certain widgets allow for editing. So like the weather app allows you to edit the location of where you're seeing. So I'm in Albany, New York now. So if I did want to edit, again, so similar to when we went to edit the stack, using the actions rotor items, we flick down a few times with one finger when we get to edit mode. So we're going to double tap.
Weather
we're going to
is editing.
So
widget.
We're on this widget. We're going to again flick down a few times.
Stop editing, delete, drag weather, activate, default, stop editing.
Oh, I apologize. I do apologize. I'm going to actually come out of this.
Finished editing.
Sorry, incorrect thing. All right. I should follow my own advice. Where we went to edit the stack was in the context menu, the triple tapping with one finger or double tapping and holding with one finger. So we're going to go back there, and there.
Remove widget.
Remove the widget. You can delete it from here.
Edit home screen.
Edit home screen. Oh, I didn't end up.
Remove edit widget.
Okay, flicking. So we had remove widget, then flick to the right, edit home screen, then flick to the right, edit widget. And that's what we want. So we're going to double tap.
See the current weather conditions and forecast.
This is the description.
Location.
Flicking to the right, location. Now flicking to the right.
My location.
Button. And this is a button. So this is what I was saying. You're going to select a button, and you're going to double tap.
Location.
And flick to the right.
Search.
And we have a
Search
search field. So here we could search for a location, and then it'll present search results, and we could double tap it to change the location for which it shows weather. Right now it's showing, as it said, for my location, meaning my current location, and it will change as I move around, and that is what I want. So I'm going to leave it there, but that is how you would edit a widget. And it's similar, for instance, with contacts, that shows the medium size shows 4 contacts, and it shows it's a button. It allows you to jump into the contact page for them, and if you've shared the location, if they have shared their location with you, it will show their location. Again, you would edit it going into the context menu. You would pick edit widget, and then you would pick you can reorder the contacts like you typically would reorder using the actions rotor or the reorder button. And then because each contact there is a button, and you would double tap that, and again that would bring you to like a search dialog like what we just saw here, except you'd search for a contact and then select it and change which contact. You would double tap on what you wanted, and then that contact would be substituted for what was currently there. Because the iPhone, it very much tries to suggest. So like I don't want to, for people's privacy reasons, like I don't want to show people's locations and things, but by default, like it picked a few contacts that it thought I wanted when I added this widget, and I had to edit those to contacts that I actually wanted to see. And by the way, it doesn't retain, so like if you had deleted the contacts widget and then added it back, it would have gone back to the suggested contacts, and you would have had to edit it to show you the ones that you want to see. But that and so the widgets can definitely be useful. The accessibility varies. I did mention coming back to the Find My widget. I'm not going to show this to you. We've already had enough of voiceover shenanigans for this demo, but that's not what this is. This is an accessibility issue with this widget. It will say image, and then it'll give a location. And so I imagine it's showing the image of the person or the item, because the same thing happens if you pick the item permutation. It's showing me, like, I assume the image of my AirTag or whatever, but it doesn't tell me, like VoiceOver doesn't say what thing it is. And if I don't easily know what it's referring to, I might as well open. I'm not going to like explore the image and do OC, detect text potentially. Like I might as well just open the Find My app and check my information there. So I don't find that one useful. Similarly, like the clock widget, I tried adding that. You're supposed to be able to, again, editing and such works similar to what I just showed. You're supposed to be able to show the time in different cities with the larger widgets. And VoiceOver just said it actually behaved the way it did earlier on this demo, where it just gave me like an image image description, and it said nothing, and that was even after I restarted the phone. So mileage does vary a bit on the widgets, but definitely when they work well, they work quite well. I have these widgets that I added other than all of these widgets that I added are ones that I do use in the way that I showed. I just might, for my personal, rearrange them a bit on my home screens. But I definitely, the battery status one, the calendar, the weather, I use those a good bit. The 2 reading ones, if I am reading that content, and the contacts I use, like to quickly see the location for my family members, my brother and my parents and such, like without needing to open the Find My app. It's just there. So I hope this has been a bit of a helpful introduction or overview of the widgets feature. Definitely can be a little quirky, but works quite well in a lot of cases, and I would encourage you to play with them and see how they can make your life more efficient and more productive. So have fun.
Well, Maria, thank you very much. That was really good. I do believe in the fact that when you use your device, it can either be a blessing or it can be a curse. And you did that very well. You let us know. So now we're going to go ahead and open it up to Q&A. And as I mentioned before, the way this is going to work is we're going to go and unmute everyone, but I want you to stay muted. And when you have something to say, unmute. You state your name. I'm going to call on you, and then you can ask your comment. You can ask your question or make a comment, and then I kindly ask everyone else to stay muted till this conversation is finished. And then once you're done with, if we've answered your question or you made your comment, go ahead and put yourself back on mute. So Michael or Sandhya, if we can go ahead and just open it up, and we'll start with the questions. And I'm going to guess Maria and Herbie, you guys are on stage.
Susan?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, Herbie, are you on stage?
I think we may have lost Herbie.
Okay, well,
I do see his name here, but I don't know if he's doesn't have.
I'm here.
Oh, there
all
he
right,
is.
so we are all here. So Susan, go ahead and ask with your question.
Yes, thank you. I can't remember where you said to go in settings to, I want to stop getting those Apple advertisements and trying to sign up for Apple Music, which I have no desire to do. Did you say go into privacy? Because if so, I went in there and I couldn't find anything about it.
I'm going to guess that's towards me. So Susan, what you do is you do go to privacy and then you scroll all the way down to the bottom. And it's actually, you'll see, I think it's below systems, drawing a blank with the name here, but it's actually like the last two in the bottom. And the one before that is the one that asked you about the Apple advertisement.
Okay, because it has a lot of pages of the contracts, and I went all the way to the bottom and I didn't see anything, unless that was the wrong privacy button.
I'll take a look at it and I'll come back with the answer if you don't find it.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, and this is for my iPad and iPhone both. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Next.
Well, if nobody has a question, I do have one for you. Oh, does somebody else have one?
Okay. I'm sorry. What was your name?
Go ahead, Herbie.
Okay. Well, you can go. I can ask Sree later if it's. So go ahead, Joanne.
Okay, this is Jody.
Jody, sorry.
I just had a quick question. First, thank you so much, Sree, Herbie, and Maria. I really enjoyed all three of you, your descriptions. Just a quick question. What is background app refresh anyway?
So basically what that does is in the background, when let's just say something is getting updated, it does the background app refresh. So it's doing everything in the background for you. That typically when you open the app, it usually kind of updates those things, but this is just running in the background all the time. Like some critical things, I would probably leave the background app refresh, open. But in my experiment that I was doing this, I basically, my whole purpose of this exercise was trying to get my life back with not getting bombarded with a lot of this stuff. And the more I looked into it, turning certain things off that doesn't really cause a lot of damage. Like you're not going to lose anything by turning background app refresh off. So it just basically just doesn't. It's
what
not
would you
always
leave it on
constantly checking.
for?
This is Herbie.
Go ahead, Herbie.
I'm very selective. Like, for instance, with my background app refresh, I have it on for apps that I think need to be able to track me for various reasons. Find My, for instance, because I do live sharing location with Chanel and a couple other people. So I want that always refreshing. I want Uber always refreshing because I want it to know where I'm at if I need to bring up the app for any reason. GPS apps mainly, but then there's a lot I turn it off for. Facebook, for instance, I got really tired of it, thinking that I was at certain places because that's where MetroLift stopped at, and to pick up somebody, and I didn't even, I had no idea what it was talking about. So, I turned it off for that, and just other apps that if I want them to know my location, or if I think they need to, they can do so whenever I actually launch the app. So I use it very selectively myself.
Yeah, one of the an example is like if I go to my local Burger King, I don't need to constantly tell me about my Burger King. I already know how to get there. I don't need to give me information about it in running in the background. So from what I looked at through all of these apps, I think Herbie was correct. Like, Find My is definitely something you want to let it run. You want the critical ones. Not everything needs to do a background app refresh. Just the one that absolutely needs to be critical, you leave those on. But when I first looked at it, everything was background app refresh. Everything was doing a background app refresh, and I didn't really need it. And it's unnecessary too.
I'm going to go through the list. I appreciate that.
Sure. Anyone else have a question?
It's Roy.
Go ahead, Roy.
I just wanted to say, wow, you guys, that was awesome today. I learned something from all three of you. And, I always tell people where they need to go to learn information. And I think iBUG today is at the top of the list after what I've heard today. I'm just really impressed. So I don't have any questions because you guys are so thorough, but thanks.
Well, I appreciate it, Roy. Thank you.
Miss Kathy.
Yeah, you go ahead, Kathy.
My mind just went blank.
That's okay. Mine does that all the time.
I wanted to ask, how come people are so opposed to having like Hey Siri on all the time? Like Herbie with the whole app library. A lot of times would I just ask Siri to get, open this or open that. And I don't really care where it is. So I was kind of thinking like, why is all this organization stuff so important?
This is Herbie.
I mean, I am a disorganized person, so it may just be,
Go ahead,
just be a personality.
So, there's a lot I could talk about with Hey Siri, to be honest with you. Sree really gave the good reasons for it earlier with the, just it using up your battery unless you are a big fan of it and you don't mind your phone always listening to you. But I can talk to other devices like my Alexa, which is plugged in, my HomePod. But the other point that actually really relates to, excuse me, my thing is, so like one reason why I cannot always rely on Siri is, so I made the mistake of getting a 128 gig phone from my 12 Pro, going down from a 256. Then we won't go into the whole details, but suffice it to say I've ran into some storage problems. So what happens is I decided to optimize my storage by having apps that I don't use just get offloaded into the cloud. And Siri will not recognize those apps.
Okay.
So I cannot use Siri to. So if my Twitter, if it goes in the cloud and I decide one day I want to use it, I actually have to go find it either in my folder or in the app library. I cannot use Siri to open up an app that is in the cloud.
That's a good reason.
This is Sree. I'll also make one other comment. I'm a big, I do like to ask Hey Siri, but something has taught us with going to iOS 15, or when I should say Apple, when they did the update at 14.8, is they disabled something in that feature that completely impacted the blind community because we relied so heavily on a particular app. And, it kind of brought us to a little bit of a chaos. But if you didn't rely on it so much, you could have got all those other things. Obviously, it's a little bit longer, but you're not stuck. And so I think this has taught us something, not to always just rely on one thing all the time. You have to be able to find other options to do a function.
And this is Herbie.
Go ahead, Herbie.
I think one thing we need to remember about Siri, and I mean, Apple needs to be mindful of how people use it too, but we need to remember that Siri is a universal smart assistant. It can function as an accessibility tool, but it is not, one, because it's used by, anybody that has an Apple device. And so, and then different devices may use it in slightly different ways, but I think we need to remember that Siri is not it was not designed to be an accessibility tool. And the other thing I was going to mention, though, like for me with Hey Siri, that I wanted, because I do use Siri to open up a lot of apps. Like I said, I don't use the app library that much, but I usually have my phone with me, so I'm perfectly fine just holding in the side button and talking to it that way, as opposed to it listening or getting maybe like it thinking I'm saying something and I'm listening to something else and it interrupting with what did you say or whatever. So that's just me with I'm perfectly fine with the side button because I have my phone with me.
That's a good point. Okay.
And also, I just want to say one thing. Where I'm at in my house, we have a lot of Apple devices. We have a lot of different devices, and when I use it, it's like 5 devices kind of go okay. So you have to also be very aware of what's around you when you're using that feature too. So just I just at the point where I just said, you know what, if the phone is next to me, I can always just push the side button and ask my question, or press the home button and ask the question. And I'm going to say battery at the end by doing that. And these things, you don't measure it by like today. You measure it by having your phone for 2 years. It all adds up.
Okay. Well, thanks.
All right.
Terry Walker, also
Yeah,
with,
go ahead,
with so it's like this when say like I go to a lot of conferences, either virtual or otherwise, and this is also true with the other smart speakers. It's very important if you want to know when for them not to interact with you. So you need to know where the mute button is on all of those, or you won't be able to have them drive you crazy when you or somebody in the other conference ends up activating them, not knowing, just by saying the word that wakes them up, whichever the word you might have assigned it to. So that's another reason why in some cases, and it's always good to know to deactivate them or mute their listening features so they won't go crazy when you don't mean for them to do that. And by the same token, you can go to that mute button if you want to ask something, and it's just like pushing the side button on your newer Apple device, or the home button on the older ones, and saying, hey Siri, or I'll just say, what's the time of day, or search for an app, or whatever you want Siri to do at that moment. And it's the same thing with the other smart devices as well. So it's always good to know when to mute them, so they won't go crazy when you and they won't get in the way, until you need them.
And one of the final things I just want to say about this is, there is a place and time that you do want to leave it on. So if you have issues with accessing the phone easily, yeah, definitely. If that gives you that benefit, leave it on. If it doesn't give you that benefit, then you think about all of these things. Just if it benefits you, everything that we talked about today, if it benefits you, definitely use it. But if it doesn't really benefit you, then think about whether do I really want it running on my device. Any other questions? These are good ones.
This is Sandhya.
Hey, yeah, Sandhya.
Okay, real quick. Amazing, y'all. I I think I have to go listen to everything again because there's a lot of material to digest. So thank you so much. So this question's for Herbie. So I had a little time on my vacation recently, and being the geek that I am, I was organizing my icons, and sorry. Okay. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I had time, but I was organizing my folders and so forth. And so now when I look into the app library, it's showing me all of my recently created folders. And so that was is that normal, or is that the normal behavior? And if you said that and I missed it, I'm sorry.
So it's showing you your recent created folders, not just your recently used apps?
Yeah, it said recently. I did say recently added apps, but I thought it was showing me folders too. Was that there, or
so? What it should be showing you is recently added, and that's just a list of the most recent apps that you've added to your phone, and then it should go to suggested, and that's where you should see like your first folder.
Okay.
And then for each category, you should see like a few apps and then a folder.
Okay.
But I don't think it would actually show the actual folders that you have created.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks for that. I'll go figure it out. Thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions? Maria, this is Sree. I have a question for you. You kind of mentioned about the widgets, and this is one that I really do enjoy is using widgets, even though I mentioned, don't use the widgets that drain the battery, but I do find some benefits with it. You said something about the smart, the algorithm of determining, okay, it's time for the reminder to be stacked on top because something is occurring. And you said it was a toggle on and off. If that's correct, if you want to then switch, do you still have the ability, or do you have to just let it run through its course?
Are you talking about that smart rotate?
Yes.
Yeah. No, so you can switch at any time through the widgets in your stack just using the actions rotor. You'll see the previous widget and next widget, like I showed in the Audible. So in the stack that I created in the demo, the Audible and Kindle, that had the smart rotate on. It's on by default. So you can absolutely cycle whenever you want to your widgets. And I believe it does leave it. I'm trying to think because when I've used it, when I've switched, I haven't paid as much since I only have one page of home screen active. And then because I use app library, I use Braille screen input a lot to open apps. So I don't actually know if you switched to a different home screen page, if the stack would revert to the top or what you last set it to. But the smart rotate just literally, if you turn it off, the widgets will always be in the order that you stacked them in. So there's nothing preventing you from navigating your widgets. It's just a matter of, do you want, artificial intelligence to figure out how you use things and reorder your stack or not? I hope that kind of made sense. Yeah, go ahead.
So I have a reminder is one of my stack widgets. And
okay.
So let's just say I got 3 reminders coming.
Yeah.
I'm guessing if I swipe right, it just goes down the list of my 3 reminders, right? Or am I doing it wrong?
You know what? That one, I think I tried to play with that one and I thought it showed me lists and I didn't remember it particularly. It would say you have 1 reminder, 2 reminders. Unless something's changed with it in iOS 15, I didn't remember that one being terribly useful. So I took that one off. I will have to play with it again. But yeah, say your calendar appointments, you would flick past each of them. It would be several flicks if you had, a couple of appointments showing up.
And then it'll be smart enough to go to the next app after it goes through the.
No, in the next widget in the stack. No. So it only shows you 1 widget in the stack at once, and you have to go to the previous and next. And the smart rotate is which order, if you go to previous and next, which order will they be in the stack? So it literally, the smart rotate means it moves the widgets around in the stack. It has nothing to do with your navigation of them. You still navigate in the same way. It's just a matter of maybe you have to go to next widget a couple of less times in theory if it, did it correctly and rotated what you wanted closer to the top. Yeah.
Yeah, I was scared to swipe right because I didn't know if I was going to miss my widgets.
Oh, no.
No.
And you can always explore by touch as well.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Sure. I think Herbie was wanting to say something.
All right, so both of you will get grilled on different things here. So Sree, you're first. You mentioned the Apple Store and the battery health, and how they can do that. So my question for you is that any different though than what the phone actually tells you just when you do your own battery check, or do they see some details that we little people don't?
So here's my thing. That battery percentages that's showing up on the screen when we go to the battery, that's false information to me, in my eyes, because they're measuring it based on the battery that it came, that Apple says, my 12 Pro Max milliamp is 3,687. But truly, that's not what my phone came with. but they're constantly measuring it against that. So if I really measure it, because you can't really do it, you can't figure this out looking at the battery app. You had to go to the log. When I measured it against the actual battery, came with what it is, I'm at, instead of 95%, I'm at 92%. So if the issue came to, okay, it's time to replace your battery, and Apple looks at the battery log and they said, oh, well, you're at, 84%. You might be at 82%. You might be at 81% by then.
Right.
And so I think Apple is not really using that gig. I think what they're really doing is looking at the battery cycle count. How much discharge has your battery gone through?
Okay.
And if you really look at my numbers, this is what really got my curiosity is, right now it says my Apple percentage is at 95, but my battery cycle is already more than halfway dead. So what is it? What is the true number?
Right.
It's definitely not that percentage.
Okay, so maybe trust the battery cycle account, and you think that's what Apple uses, not some of that other data.
Yeah, because if you think logically, my thing should be if the battery cycle count is accurate, my percentage should be somewhere in the 90 percentile because it's already halfway gone through, right?
Yep. Okay. And then Maria, my question for you is this. So you, as you mentioned, and I even mentioned in the semi demonstration actually, that you use the Braille screen input method to open apps. Now obviously with some apps like, Calendar, you can kind of see like appointments right there, but in general, like for apps like Audible or whatever, do you really see any advantages with widgets over as opposed to just, using Braille screen input to tell it to open Audible?
Yeah, so it depends on the widget. Like I think, the Audible one where it at least shows me a few books and it's right there on my screen. It is, quicker if I know I just want to get to that last one. I use a combination there of I'm using Explore by touch and I kind of know where it is on the screen and I sort of touch it and then it's like 2 flicks away and double tap and it's done. Whereas, with the Braille screen input, I'd have to, activate it and type like AU and then, perhaps flick down and then 2 finger flick to the right and open it and then find the app on the home page find the book on the home screen. So that one can be a time saver. I think for instance that Kindle one where it only shows the one book, it's a little bit of a more limited case. So I think it really does depend on the widgets and kind of how you use them and where they are. Because like say if someone has a multiple home screen pages and the Audible widget is like on page 3 and you've stacked it with a couple of other things, then yeah, the amount of flicking you're gonna have to go next widget a couple of times to activate the next one in the stack and then press it and it's gonna kind of equal out. So I do think it really kind of depends on how you have it set up and how you use them.
Okay, because, for me, like with Audible, the play button will, continue off the last book I'm playing and it'll show it to the left of it. So that's why I was, kind of curious if you noticed any advantages with the widget as opposed to just opening the app. So, all right.
Herbie, I wanted to follow up one more thing because you made me actually think of something. So if we are out there trying to go buy a used phone, let's just say refurb or used phone, I definitely now am going to ask the battery cycle count. I'm not really going to care about the percentage because that's going to really give me an indication as when does Apple, when will that battery need to be replaced where I'd have to take it to the store.
Oh, that's something good to tell people when they're looking at used phones then, what is the battery cycle count. All right. Apple introduced cycle tracking with Apple Watch last year, but they really need to focus more on cycle tracking with the battery as well. So 2 different types. Okay, bad joke. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Any other questions? I did have one question for you, Herbie, because I learned something new about moving the app. I could never figure out how to move when you're in the search and there's a list of apps to move it back to the screen. So describe that to me. You said you flick up or you were in activity?
So this is where it's a little bit easier if you already know where the app is on your home screen. But if you're going to do it from the app library, what you have to do is you find so you can kind of you start typing in the app name, then you can kind of flick right and you should be able to get to the app that you want. And then if you want to move it, we have a raised hand and we don't do raised hands here, guys. Anyway, so what you do is so this is where it's a little funny here, and that's why I say it's a lot easier from the home screen, not from the app library. So once you get to the app, you have to use your rotor to get to the actions, and then you should be on activate, because otherwise it's actually going to open.
Oh.
And so what you have to do is you kind of have to, let's see if I can show this real quick, because it's a bit...
Phone. WhatsApp. Phone.
Okay, let's see if I can just do this with the...
Actions. Edit mode. Activate. Edit mode.
So...
Follow. App library. Suggestions.
Okay, so
Follow.
yeah.
Follow.
So here I'm on the follow app.
Characters. Actions.
So
Activate.
right now it put me on actions. I can go down to edit
Start
mode.
editing. Phone. Is that follow? Delete. Stop.
And now I
editing
can do my standard edit here. But with the search, I had to use the rotor to get to the actions, and then I could go down to my edit. If I was searching for an app that I wanted to move. Whereas if I'm just swiping, it seems to be on actions by default. So.
Thank you.
Does
I'm
that
not
answer
sure if
your
it was
question?
Kathy who raised your hand.
Yeah, it was.
Kathy, go ahead and ask your question. Go ahead. Did we lose her?
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
There you are.
That's okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just real
Yeah.
quick. Sorry, just real quick. One more thing. So on the search thing, what you have to do is once you find the app you want, because it's assuming that you're still typing, that's why you have to go to the actions rotor. So then you have to do your rotor gesture to get to actions, and then you go down to drag item, and then you go from there. Anyway, sorry,
Okay.
Kathy. Go ahead.
Yeah, Kathy.
No,
go
no,
ahead.
I was just lost on the screen. I didn't know how. I wouldn't have known how to raise my hand if I was looking at the participants.
You have a
So I had
question?
no question.
Oh,
No.
okay.
This is
Sorry.
Terry.
Yeah, Terry, go ahead.
I'm thinking sometimes when you buy a refurbished phone, among the things that has been done is that the battery has been changed. So in theory, you would have a brand new battery
This is Herbie.
in that refurbished phone.
Mm-hmm.
So is that gonna affect what you're gonna see in terms of battery cycling and that sort of thing?
Well, I'll just give you my comment and I'll let Herbie make his comment. It's a good indication if you got a refurb phone and your battery cycle count is like 1, at least you know they're giving you a new battery at least, versus it being, 98% and it's been cycled a few times. So I think it's a good indication. I mean, I would have never thought to ask someone, hey, give me the battery cycle count. I was just going to rely on that percentage. And I'm just saying, from what I've looked at, that percentage is not 100% accurate. Herbie, did you have a comment?
I wanted to explain just kind of some important terminology here, and because this affects what you will get. And there is a huge difference between used and refurbished. So Sree, you'd mentioned purchasing a used phone. So that would be a phone that somebody has used, that maybe they're selling on eBay or whatever, that you're buying, and maybe the most they've done to it is reset it, they've unlocked it, and that's it. Refurbished is they've actually kind of gone through and literally refurbished it. So they've replaced parts, and hopefully they've replaced the battery as well. So, if you might get a newer battery with a refurbished phone as opposed to a used phone. So I want to make sure people understand
This is
the
Terry.
terminology of it. Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
I do know of somebody who, had a battery changed in her phone. So because it needed a new battery. So if she were to sell it, she would sell it as a used phone, but it still would have a new battery in it because she actually went to whatever
Yes.
store she went to and had them actually change that battery, because thankfully now you can do that.
This is Herbie. Oh, sorry.
So there's that terminology is, yeah, I guess you still, it helps to, it brings up the point that you really have to ask these questions. And I wouldn't have known to ask that either, but it sure is good to think about that, especially with these SEs.
Yep. Yep. I think, you know, like the good thing about batteries are, you know, it's relatively inexpensive to replace it, but it's also good to know what you get, what it has, you know? Go ahead, Herbie.
I was just gonna say, so for me, my definition, like I understand refurbished to be the company or whatever, they've actually completely done an overhaul on the phone. The battery, you know, connectors, you know, so basically, you know, they've gone over it with a fine tooth comb as opposed to a used phone that has a new battery, which hopefully would increase maybe its value a little bit. One would hope, but that's how I define. That's my understanding of what refurbished is they've actually gone in and it's, you know, an old phone but with new parts, kind of, or same with a computer. So that, at least that's how I would define refurbished as opposed to, you know, Terry's scenario. But these are definitely good, I mean, good questions. And, you know, because I don't want to lose focus on what, you know, Sree and Terry are talking about is, you know, maybe asking the person, okay, what does the current battery cycle say on the phone? And I'm assuming, Terry, with the new battery that, or Sree, maybe you know the answer, that once the new battery comes in, that, you know, resets the cycle count?
So the way the lithium batteries work is they reduce their capacity every time a full one discharge occurs. That's how they behave. And that's why, you know, also doing this exercise, you know, I was wondering why my 12 Pro was always staying at 100% when it was brand new. I go, logically, this is impossible. I mean, scientifically, it's impossible. But then when I started looking at, you know, what does the battery actually come with, then it starts making sense, you know. So it's just, you know, that every time it goes to a complete discharge and you charge it back up, you should lose some percentage of that battery.
Okay, guys, we're going to have to.
I need to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think we've run out of time here, but great presentations, everyone. Sree, Herbie, Maria, you guys did an awesome job. And anybody that, of course, has questions can always go back later on in a day or so. We'll have the recordings up on our website and YouTube, so you can always find them there. Just wanted to make some quick announcements coming up this week. We've got, of course, our Monday night iBUG Buzz, 7:30 p.m. Central on Zoom. Tuesday, we've got the mini buzz, iBUG mini buzz on Clubhouse, starting at 5 p.m. Central. Then we have Thursday, our book club, Vila Book Club, at 6:30 p.m. Central on Zoom. And then Friday night, we'll have our regular Friday night at the virtual movies. So join us there at 8 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. actually for the social time on Zoom. So with that, just a big hand for all our presenters. Great job.
Hey, Michael, can I just say one comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Herbie, to Maria, to Sandhya and Michael, because, you know, we can only do this because everybody's helping me do this, and also for everyone who joined and asked the questions. And if you didn't ask the question, hopefully what we presented to you, you learned something new, and if you did, then we did our job. So thank you.
Yeah, most definitely appreciate everybody being here again. So we'll see you again next month for iBUG Cafe. And I don't know that we have a topic yet, but we'll let you know as soon as we do. All right, guys. Thanks, everybody. We will call it a night.
Stay well and be safe. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Good job, everybody. Thank you.